Mena-Watch, der Talk.
Welcome, Orna Shaked. Today I'm talking with you. You are two representatives of the Israeli non-government organization NATAL. It deals with trauma management in times of crisis and strengthening resilience with innovative approaches. In Europe, the war in Ukraine has raised awareness of crisis and feelings of uncertainty and trauma. The Jewish population in Germany has been threatened by anti-Semitic attacks since October 7th. From Natal's perspective, these are two examples of a global trend towards great uncertainty with corresponding consequences for the affected population. The answer to this is strengthening resilience as a preventative measure. There are training programs for first aiders, managers and students, but also university curricula for psychologists. I would like to introduce you, and then you are going to tell us what is NATAL doing and how it is doing. So Orna, you are the consultant for strategic partnership in Europe. You are an architect, founder and managing director of a trade fair and exhibition specialist, as well as initiator and director of the art and culture project Chaos. And Chaos is about artistic exploration of the topics of resilience and trauma because of increasing terrorism, racism, worldwide discrimination, xenophobia, etc., and the COVID pandemic, not at the last. To name just a few, you are trying to find new approaches with artists to meet these challenges and develop resilience. And Shaked Arieli, you are head of department personal and professional development at NATAL. You have a master's degree in social work with specialization in community work and social change. As a social worker, you have extensive experience working with at-risk young adults. You are specialized in helping them find meaningful and fulfilling employment through tailored programs. Trauma and its consequences are understood as a social task in Israel. That's why NATAL is taking appropriate action to avoid far-reaching consequences as best as possible. How is it organized and what does NATAL's work look like?
So first of all, we're very honored and excited to be here in Berlin. And I would say that, our extreme events in our life is trauma is sometimes the key also for our resiliency. You don't have resiliency without coping with trauma. So this is why NATAL organization was established 26 years ago, actually by Yehudi Yovel Rekanati, which was one of the main central philanthropic Jewish in Israel. It's very unique that a philanthropic person is establishing an NGO. And she did it because there was a reflection of the Yom Kippur War 50 years ago that a lot of soldiers went out of the combat, went out of the war with what she called post-trauma effects. And they were really, they felt ashamed by themselves, by their reaction, by their helpless anger. And they didn't share their families and their friends about their feelings and situation. We call it, they didn't go out of the army closet? How do you say it?
Of the army clothes, yes.
It's like you're gay and you're going out. So,
From the wardrobe.
And they didn't go out and didn't publish their trauma. So now in Israel, it's much more consensus to talk about trauma, but it wasn't like that 26 years ago. So this is why NATAL was established, in order to raise awareness for post-trauma symptoms and the coping with trauma, and also to help the Israeli society gain much more resiliency and to cope better with all the trauma and war and terror events in Israel.
So can you tell us a little bit, how is it constructed? You have all these done research on how it works in a body. How can you explain? Can you explain it?
So this is an organization with a very unique a protocol, a unique type of organization, because we are very narrow at routine times. Okay, we have a very narrow staff. The headquarters in Tel Aviv, some freelance that works as therapist. We have the helpline with volunteers. And when it comes to war, like the 8th October war in the last 8 months, or any kind of situation of emergency, we can wide our staff immediately. It doesn't take us energy or training in order to move from routine to emergency. We're a very flexible organization. So, for example, on this continuous war, we extend our therapy, our clinical unit, from 150 therapists to 350 therapists. Actually, right now, instead of 300 patients that we usually take care of in routine times, now we have 2,000 patients. Some of them are reserve soldiers, some of them are people that were in the Nova Festival in the October 8th, or other survivors. And we could expand our work only because we are very flexible and we're prepared for emergency.
So if a person has a trauma, first of all, how does the body react on special events? This is causing a trauma, but it's not always immediately there. It's coming after a while, and sometimes even after years. How are the processes in the body that cause this trauma?
So first of all, we are all of us are dealing with extreme events in our life. Unfortunately, life is not always easy. Life is not always as we expect it. We have surprises. And the thing is, how do we expect ourselves to cope with situation, and how the situation was extreme, and how it influenced us for a long period. And if the event was so extreme that we feel helpless, and we feel that all our narrative and all the story we built for ourselves about our abilities and about the society and about the world and how secure is the world, if it collapses, then there is a big break. If your narrative is broken, and you feel like a big crisis in what you believe about yourself and about the world and how safe is the world from you, then you feel traumatized. And when you feel traumatized, it can happen two things. First is you will feel symptoms of arousal, of dangerous, intrusive thoughts, nightmares. You can have some symptoms of trauma, but usually after a while it will get better and you will heal. Because we all have our internal powers, and we have our way to rehabilitate ourselves. But for some people, they will still have symptoms after a while. So if after 1 month from the trauma event, you still have symptoms, you might have post-traumatic stress disorder. And then it's better to get a treatment, to go to therapy, get some help, and to stop with someone in order to regain your power, resources, and stability.
We come back to you, but now I would like to ask Orna. You do have done this Chaos project, and you have met artists, and did you already have any experience? What kind of art helps the best with people who have trauma or are trying to get out of it?
No, not at all. Not at all. It doesn't matter which kind of. There are artists, there are choreography, there are writers, and so on. It doesn't matter what. But the first moment that they felt that it helps them to concentrate and to do work and to create. First of all, to create and to have resiliency. Part of, because as Shaked told, you can have a clinical part, you have to have a part in hospitals and so on, and you can have a part that you are helping yourself. And if somebody has something favorite in his life and he's doing it, he can do it much, much better. I can tell you that one of the people I worked with, I didn't work with him, but he helped me a lot about this issue, is Anselm Kiefer. He is, first of all, very, very famous, one of the best artists in the world. And he told me that the Holocaust and all the things happened to him is for sure one of the reasons that he is so famous and he is so good in whatever he is doing.
And where do you work with artists? It's in Israel or in other countries?
All over the world. As a matter of fact, we started in Zoom. When we had 2022 and nobody could meet and nobody could see each other and so on. And so I had a platform, a Zoom every week. And it was the first time that professional people were with art people together. And it was very, very interesting. And we had a choreography. We showed so many things about it. It was really something to look forward. And it's until now. And we did it because we couldn't meet and we couldn't make exhibitions and we couldn't make events. And Zoom was the best therapy about it in this matter.
So after hearing one way of curing people, how do people that are affected find Natal? Is it very popular in Israel? Is it known? And how do you work on a person that has a trauma? This was one way, but is there other ways to treat?
So Natal is very known in Israel for specialization with trauma and resiliency, but many times people that are coping with trauma doesn't know about the services they can get to. They doesn't know where to call. So we work a lot through raising awareness, through media, Facebook, television, every way we can in order to give them the opportunity to come to Natal. Natal has a helpline, which is 24/7 for everyone who needs even one-time call or help through continuous connections. And we have a very big clinic unit which take care in all kinds of therapies. Art is one way, movement, yoga. We have a running group. Sports is very important for the health and for the rehabilitation of people that are coping with trauma. So running group, we have groups in the sea, like diving and other kinds of sports. And also, I'm in charge of the development, the career development unit, which means that also employment is a kind of movement. So employment, sport, therapy, EMDR, SE, it's all kinds of treatment for trauma. It's very important that someone that is dealing with trauma will get a specific help from someone that is specialized in trauma therapy. Because just talking about it, it's not enough. You need more, how do you call it? More methods that works also with the brain. For example, EMDR, yes. SE, other methods that works with the body and with your mind and not only by talking to you.
I think what is very special in Natal is that they are very interactive. It doesn't mean that only the people who are calling the helpline, but the people in Natal are going to universities. They are giving their lecture, and then afterwards people are coming to them and saying, listen, I have the feeling that I have something wrong. I didn't know it until now, but after I heard you, this is exactly the thing. So I think it's very, very special for Natal, because most of the organizations are waiting that people coming to them, and here's is vice versa. And I think it's a very important point for Natal.
The outreach is one of the social thinking, community social work is very, very important. You're very right. We're going to universities, for example, because if someone was in the war or reserve, he was now in reserve in Gaza, and he go back to studies he learns in the academy, and he can't concentrate in the studies. He feels that maybe he has, ADHD, or maybe a problem of concentrating. And he doesn't know actually that this concentrating problem is from the trauma. It's not originally from his ADHD or something like that. Many students they go back to studies from combat, from reserve, or from any other trauma event, and they find themselves that in this moment they can't concentrate anymore. Before they didn't have any problem to study, and now they can't study. Their mind is in another place. They have a problem focusing. So all this problem with self-regulation, with organize your mind for studies, it's very important. You can't study without it. And if he has a problem, he might be at risk to get out of the university. So what we do is we help him to be aware that he is dealing with something that is connected to trauma. It's kind of symptoms of trauma. And we help him to get the specific treatment and therapy for him, so he will be able to quiet his mind again and study in his best potential as he can.
So, Shaked, this is a non-governmental organization. How does it finance itself?
First of all, it's a good question. It's always difficult for NGOs to survive as organization, and we always recommend people that want to establish a new NGO, don't start a new NGO, make a project and integrate it into existing NGO, because it's so difficult to have a stable income and outcome as NGO. This is for first. I say it as a community social worker. Second, Natal is mostly found by philanthropic. But also we have income from self-income, like we sell workshops and trainings. We're experts of trauma all over the world. People from Ukraine, for example, when they have the war, they ask for training for trauma experts of Ukraine. So we exchange knowledge. It's very important. And also around 30% is based on the government. Mostly the Ministry of Defense and also the Ministry of Health. They found our therapists, the people that are coping with trauma, of course, get their fund from the public.
Yes, but some of the patients, they have to pay for the therapy?
Yes. Our helpline is for free, of course. If you call Natal, no one will charge you for the call. But
for a long time, as a matter of fact. No?
Yeah,
it is something special too.
You can get a connection with a volunteer specialized in trauma for like 8 years.
For
no
8
one will.
years.
Yeah, you will never pay for that. But if you are getting a psychological therapy from a trauma expertise, or you get a career coaching from in my unit from employment social worker or from career coacher, so you will pay, but you will pay a very symbolic amount, because it's important that people will pay, so they will be responsible for their rehabilitation. But you don't want this to be the burden, to be something that will prevent them to get a treatment. So they will pay, but something very symbolic.
Very symbolic, and I wanted to realize that we had an event 1 week ago, and one of the people said that the moment he said that he doesn't have enough money, it was something like 30 or 40 shekels, and he doesn't have enough money. They told him it's okay if you're paying 20. So it's really something very, very special for this.
They pay around 15 euro per session, but it will never be a barrier. So here in Natal, it's very accessible, because you will get a therapist next to your house. It doesn't matter if you live in the south or in the north, in the periphery or in the center. We will find a psychologist that is right for you next to your house, and also in the right method that you want to be taken care of. Dynamic therapy, EMDR, SE, and other methods as well.
You are dealing with Natal for around 25 years, is that right? Do you have cooperation partners in Israel and outside of Israel? How is this?
We always work with others NGOs and also with public services as well, integrated together. It's very important to coordinate. It's very important that everyone will put their ego aside and will
To share knowledge.
will share their knowledge and accept together. And also abroad, we are teaching and we are training other places in what we already are experts of. For example, we train the trainers, we train policemen in the United States, how they can take care of each other from burnout. We also train them to take our knowledge and to expand it in the United States, so they will transfer the knowledge to other policemen as well. We do that also with firemen. We do this with paramedics and doctors in hospitals that are burned out, or social workers, because we understand that everyone that gives or also meets trauma on a daily basis needs therapy by his own, because otherwise he is in a risk for a secondary traumatize. So we are taking care of him to help him help himself and to get his resources to gain his powers back.
But we are always doing what we're helping the helpers. We are not going to the individual. We are always doing it and spreading the news with people who are really professionals in this field, not to give the person the.
For example,
Yes.
we have a program in Germany. It's called the Safe Place.
Safe place we started at the Bundesfachkongress for Education. It was very, very interesting. We have been there 4 years ago. And then we got, after 2 years, it was interesting, and we had a session there. And then after 3 years, we had an emergency call from Professor Jeck from Hessen, and told us, listen, we need you urgent. I don't want to tell the story why, but yes, they invited us, and they had there a workshop, a very interesting one. And just now, this week, they have another one, and they will show the togetherness we had with Natal, and what they understood from it. So it was a very, very good cooperation, very good cooperation.
And this is an example how we work with the teachers. We are not working with the student. We train the trainers how to work with students about coping with the stress at schools, because this is the key to resiliency. If they will find stress as something they can deal with, something they can cope to, and it's not something that frees them and they can't, and they feel helpless, then they will gain their powers back and they will develop their resiliency. So it's very important.
You have numbers of how many people you can really cure and how many people are in the middle and how many are not. Can you give us the numbers?
So let's say that maybe 50% of us will encounter a traumatic event in our life. Around 6 to 12% of the people that encounter trauma will have a post-traumatic stress disorder, will have influence of the trauma symptoms for long term, maybe for whole their life to deal with. But the good news is that most of us will cure ourselves. Most of us have naturally resources to rehabilitate ourselves. So around 35% won't need any help at all for getting their stability back. And around 30% will need therapy in order to get stable again, but most of us will be okay.
My last question is to the both of you, one after the other. How did you feel at the 7th of October? What comes after that? What happened to you?
It's a very good question. As a matter of fact, I'm still in the place of the 7th of October. Because I'm living my life, and it's very, very special for me, because I wasn't in the army, and it was very very frightful, very, very, very. And I'm still living the moment. I have my daily life. I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm in a little bit in a bubble, no doubt about it. And I felt more and more, I'm so many years in Natal already, but I felt just now more and more that we have to spread the news how important it is to prepare yourself for such a moment. You can never prepare yourself for such a moment, it's no doubt about it, but the resiliency, and this is maybe the reason why we visit just now Germany, because we understood that to be resilient and to understand that something could happen to us, not a war, no, God help us, but to make your body more resilient and to try to understand the proportion, what is going on, and how you can live with it together. So I think it's very important, and we really want to spread it all over, because I think it's very important for the community, for the individual, and so on.
Mm-hmm. I will say this on the 7th of October, I woke up from the bombs. I live in the south. I heard it. I understood it's unusual. So immediately I was with NATAL's services. We were all helping and answering the phone, because from around 60 calls per day, we got 3,000 calls that day. And it was also from people that are in the safe room in the south. And they called the police first, and they asked for help because they have terrorists in their living room, and the police didn't come for hours. And then they called NATAL's helpline because they saw it in the TV scroll. So they call our number and they say, please, someone help us. There is terrorist in my living room. And our volunteers are specialized in trauma. They couldn't help them. I think this is a big break of this day, is the helpless of all the services that didn't came to people. And for example, one of the kibbutz, Nir Oz, which now they are evacuated very close to my house. And they say that it was for so many hours that it's 25% of their population was killed or there are hostages. And the army didn't came. There was not even one shoot in these days at this kibbutz, in this village. So the crisis is so big. The feeling of depression and helpless was so extreme. So I think that my own feeling, I think as many of my generation, is that we moved in one shot from being like a Netflix generation, TikTok generation, to a survival mode. We are different from the whole world. If before we felt very global, like you in Berlin, we're in Israel, we're the same people, we like the same shows at Netflix, everything is the same. Now we feel very different. We feel that we are in danger, in a real danger. I live very close to the border, and I look all the time from the window to see if a terrorist come. It's not normal, and it's a collective trauma. And we never thought we'll be in a situation like everyone in Israel feels the trauma and feel in danger. It's a very unique and sad situation. And if I need to say something, one positive thing out of that is that we are now have more solidarity between us in order to cooperate and to activate together in this stressful situation, because if we won't do it together, we won't be able to solve it.
And do you think that this Israeli society can cure itself from this event?
I think it will take a long time. I think that it will influence us for many years and generation. But yes, I think we will cure for that, and maybe we even will get stronger for that, because we believe in post-traumatic growth. We believe that from a very extreme situation can get sometimes very creative and positive solutions. And I really hope that we will take this opportunity and we will together will make something good out of it.
To end this with a positive moment, I would like to mention that Israel is in the list of the happiness factor moment 2024 on place number 5, and Germany is on place number 16 to 24. It moved down. So the feeling here seems to be less resilient than the Israeli society. So this is hopefully for the future a good omen. Thank you very much for giving the speech and talking to us, to Mena-Watch. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Eine Produktion von Mena-Watch, dem unabhängigen Nahost-Thinktank. Auf unserer Website finden Sie täglich aktuelle Informationen und Analysen. besuchen Sie uns.